Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, episode 300. Excellent. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all, hopefully, become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Mike Proudfoot, and with me are the Winter is Coming members of the Song Talk Action Radio team. Song Talk Radio Action team. Okay. We have fur-trimmed Phil.
I am quite fuzzy,
just
I
like
guess.
Santa.
Yes.
Wearing a T-shirt.
And we have November Neil, so named because it was just his birthday.
It was
Happy
just my
belated.
birthday. Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. And on the tech board, it is Decorations Don.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Don.
During the show, please send your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca, and we will share them with the audience in real time. If you're listening to the live broadcast, it won't be real time if it's the podcast. And please visit us at songtalk.ca to find out how you can be a guest on the show. Oh boy, we do have a good show tonight. Our guest tonight is Juno-award winner Steve Strongman, a multiple Maple Blues Award winner for such things as recording, songwriter, guitarist of the year, guitar player, electric jack, and entertainer of the year. 2019 International Blues Challenge Best Guitarist, solo and or duo. And he's open for B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Joe Cocker, Johnny Winter. Toured all over the world and is a native son of Hamilton. Ooh. Sorry about the Grey Cup, Steve.
Oh, that hurt.
But welcome to Song Talk.
Thank you so much for having me.
Steve.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So are you an instrumental guitar player as well? Like you write instrumental guitar songs?
No, I don't really focus on instrumental stuff. It's mostly all about, the lyrics, too, that go with it. Although I haven't...
He's a damn fine
I've thought about it, but it's just never really presented itself, really.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say no to it, though.
Right. So you are recognized as a blues guitarist. I guess, is that how you started out?
No, as a matter of fact, I started out basically as a classic rock kind of lover. I started out, I played acoustic guitar for about 5 years before I ever played any electric guitar.
Right.
And I learned almost every Neil Young song that you ever could. And I was making a living playing in bars from the age of about 15, bars and nightclubs and bowling alleys. And that's where my love kind of really started happening of songwriters and getting serious about it. And then I always fell in love with blues, but I didn't know that blues was really what my true calling was until I started realizing why did I like bands like Led Zeppelin and Clapton and all of the huge influences obviously all those bands had.
So were you playing other styles before that?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I was. I was in a rock band, a Canadian rock band that had some mild Canadian success, actually. We were called Plasticine. That was with one of my best friends in the whole world, Rob Zabo, who's a fantastic songwriter and has been a huge influence on me, and he produced my Juno-award winning CD as well. So
did you have a lightning bolt or something that got you to the blues, or it just was a realization?
No, I did. I had that lightning bolt. I think that happens to a lot of people when you finally start really digging deeper into what is it that is really that you're connecting with on an emotional level of this music. And as I mentioned, bands like Zeppelin. And then I realized, wait a minute, these guys are just a blues band, or the Rolling Stones.
Especially them.
Yeah, especially them. So I started realizing and digging deeper, and then I started discovering some amazing blues artists. And right around that time, like a lot of people my age, I fell in love with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. This is great. And there was a place called Pop the Gator in Kitchener, Ontario, where I was born and raised. I'm actually, Hamilton I've been for the last half of my life, 25 years or so. But my aha moment would have to be, if I had to pick one, was when I walked into Pop the Gator. I actually snuck in through the fire escape because I was underage. And I snuck in there and I went and saw an artist named Mel Brown playing. And it just blew me away. He was there playing with Kim Wilson and James Harmon, great harp players, and that's it. What these guys are doing is that's it. So I played, meandered around in cover bands and rock bands, and did a lot of different styles. I was in a country band in my early 20s. So for me as a musician, it's always been a very, very wide variety of music. But blues is definitely my first love.
My oversimplified way of looking at it, sometimes anyway, is that rock is kind of what rock is about the notes, whereas blues is more about what's going on in between the notes. Like there's a lot more looseness.
Is the
in
blues
terms-
about a good man feeling bad?
Well, it's that too, but in terms of musicality.
To me, I mean, especially when you talk about, in my opinion, blues, people sort of go, "Oh, blues is this and it's that," but really, as we were talking about before we started the live thing, it can be happy tunes. To me, it's everything. I hear blues in everything. I hear the blues influence, I guess is what I mean.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, blues has become the foundation of North American music, even classical music. Very often, it's there's lots of references to the blues format. You know,
Yeah.
it's actually the definitive North American musical style, really.
Well, there's chord structures, there's vocal styles that take from the blues, and then there's even a lot of the rhythms that pop music and rock and roll has. It's very blues.
Absolutely.
oriented,
And certainly your stuff is it's not traditional blues. It's
Right.
blues. It's a little bit folk. It's a little bit.
Well, you got 7 albums out, right?
I do. I have 7 albums.
So did they
out.
start seriously hardcore blues and then move out, or did they? Where have you gone in your musical journey, your recorded musical journey?
I would say that, as I said, starting from a rock background and being in a rock band that released 2 albums and had a record deal in Canada and all that, I was on a tour bus as a hired gun, and I said, if I'm going to be doing everything that I'm doing right now, I want it to be what it is that I want to record.
Right.
And that became Honey, which came out in 2006. And out of all of the 7 albums that I've released, I would say Honey was probably most what people would consider in between the pipes of blues. Oh, this
Right.
is blues, this is blues. But I have always, as an artist, I would say push those boundaries. Sometimes people don't like that, which I understand. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm definitely not a traditional blues artist.
But are you ever really conscious about that, or do you just write songs and the way they come out, like irrespective of what box it fits into?
Well, I think, as we're going to listen to a couple of my songs, people will hear that if you didn't say anything and they didn't hear any preamble about the song and said, what kind of music do you think this is? How do you want to classify it? I'm not sure that people would immediately say blues, at least with these 2 examples that we're going to get to tonight. But to me, I just try and let the song speak. And at the end of the day, if it comes out being, wow, this is a real blues tune. I mean, having said that, there's an element of, you don't want to completely, I'm not going to write a tune and play it like a heavy metal tune or something like that. But
I loved your last hip hop album.
yeah, and you don't want to, unless you really feel like you want to completely make a departure. In that case, it's something different. But for me, everything that I've always done has had a very serious blues foundation to it, and I consider myself a blues artist like
Let's
that.
get into the process. So what is
Yeah.
your writing process like now? Like, are you writing every day, or?
No, you guys have had 300 other people in here talking about songwriting, so I'm sure that
More
you've
or
talked
less.
about this a lot, and it's probably different for everybody.
Of course it is.
My whole life with regards to songwriting has been, I have to do it. I'm not one of these guys that wakes up in the morning and just goes, oh, I need to write, I need to do it. I have to force myself to do it.
Right.
And I have to work at it. And early in my career, I was very successful as a guitar player, and some of the people that I was working with would say, you really got to write more. Like, this is, and then thankfully I pursued that, and people liked my songs, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's
that
not
helps.
like it's not like you're writing and then people go, geez, don't worry about the writing so much, leave that to somebody else. So no, I sort of, I'm on a 2-year recording cycle. That's usually when a new record comes out for me after all the touring that I do, and so it becomes, I should really be writing. But one of the things that I'm still working on all the time is constantly using that muscle and flexing that muscle of writing all the time. Even on the way here, I had a lyrical idea. Boom, I grabbed my phone, I put it in voice memos, and refer back to it when, the mood
Now,
strikes you.
as a fellow guitar player, like a lot of my writing songs starts off with riffs on the guitar, and then I build the song out of that.
Yeah.
Is that how you're writing songs, or do you start off with a lyrical idea, then a melody idea, then the chords, or?
It changes for me, but I would say that almost like a good 70 to 80% of the time, it's a musical idea that starts first.
Right.
And then I kind of go, well, what is it that I want to say with this?
When you say musical idea, is that just a melody, or is that like some kind of a guitar lick?
Could be either. Sometimes I'll write songs and just put placeholders in that are like gibberish. You know what I mean? Like just because I have an idea what the melody is or how the chorus is going to sit, and I think it's really. But then you come back and you tweak it a little bit and go, that lyric isn't quite doing it for me. So that's sort of the way it is for me. But obviously, it's different for everybody.
Are you? Did you collaborate with any other songwriters? Or
I did. That's another huge thing that I think is always really important to touch on when you're talking about songwriting. Early on, it was mostly me writing, but I've always had other songwriters. My most successful records have been co-writes. So me writing with Rob Zabo. Part of the reason I think we were so successful is we both realized that every idea is there not because you're trying to shoot somebody else's idea down, it's just because we want to explore that. And we had that trust and that deep relationship where
that's
you know each other so well. But having said that, I was recently in Nashville doing some co-writing with some people there, and there's something to be said for just getting in a room going, okay, what have you got? So there's an energy that comes from that too. But on my latest record, which is called Tired of Talking, I think there's only one song on there that I only wrote myself. The rest are all co-writes.
Oh, cool.
oh, great!
Is there something that you look for with a collaborator? Like, you're not, you're not that big on lyrics, you bring in the music and you look for someone who's more lyrically proficient, or is it change depending on the person?
It changes depending on the person. Like, for example, some of the people that I've written with, they have really specific skills in, maybe I'm hung up on one tiny little thing, and I'll call Rob and I'll go, well, what do you think of this? Is this any good? And he might say, well, that's really good, but, do you really need that extra 4 chord? And then he'll play it without it, or I'll try it without it, and I'll go, wow.
Right.
Less is more, cut that out and that works. So there's no, probably one of the major things that everybody talks about in this room on this show is there's no rules, right?
There's no formula.
Yeah. There's no formula. Yeah. And if it, I love great quotes from people like John Lennon and Paul McCartney saying, if it were easy, we'd just, go write another Yesterday, just go do it. It's like,
Right.
well,
it's easy, anyone can do it.
Anybody can do it. Just write a great song. Just write a hit.
A question that a lot of people always seem to ask when it comes to collaborating is how you handle the business side, like how you handle the splits. Do you agree with that before you go in, or?
That's a great question. That's a really good point to touch on, I think, before you start anything like that. But for me, it's always been so easy because I just go, okay, how much do you feel like you put into this? I know certain people go, whoever's in the room, they get 50% or 20% or whatever it is, and I understand that.
Equal,
everyone's equal. You're all writing together. It doesn't matter who did what. That takes a lot of the, stickiness out of it.
Yeah, no negotiating. If you're in the room and the song's done.
No, but it sounds like you guys, you collaborate with someone and then you discuss afterwards?
Yeah, then we discuss after. And then, because a lot of times I'll say, I really came to you with an idea that I feel was, 75% done. And what do you think? And very rarely, I can't even think of any time where it's been so far. What are you talking about? I had everything. It's never happened to me. It's always been a very easy conversation, and right down to the point where they'll go, I think I only wrote 10% of this, or 5%, or 2.5%, whatever it is.
With that example you gave where you just shared the song with your friend and he said, we'll just take out 1 chord. Does that count for anything?
That's a very good point too. What constitutes a writing credit, right? So I'll give you an example of that. One of the tunes I had, killer, awesome bass player from Toronto here, Alec Fraser, came in, and he had an idea of extending this one little section. So it was like, instead of a 12 bar, one of the bars was like a 13 bar, and it was just such a cool thing to do where, as a listener, you kind of feel like it's going somewhere, but then it doesn't. And it was a really old school blues thing. But he didn't really add anything except for that extra bar. So I said to him after, I went, I think you got to get a songwriting credit on this one. And he goes, what are you talking about? That doesn't constitute a songwriting credit. Because to him,
it was just easy.
It was just a little suggestion. You know what I mean? But to me, I was all ready to go, like, what do you think?
Well, because sometimes something like that really does change the energy of the song, which can make it from just being a good song to being a great song. It's like very often those little details is what's the difference.
Well, speaking of great songs, how about we listen to a song?
So you said this song coming up is from your early on?
Yeah, Soul Searching. It's a kind of a special tune for me because...
was this from your first album?
This is from my first album, and this was, even on that record, a bit of a departure that people didn't really know that side of me as an artist, this side, and it was a much more introspective, I think, and just one of these songs that just happened. I didn't have to sit in a room for hours and hours and go into the diamond mine and try and find it. It was just like, you know, when these moments of inspiration happen, I think as songwriters, we all have to try and recognize them and capitalize on them. And that was like that for me.
So the process of writing a song, you just sort of sat down and kind of it came out pretty quickly?
This one came out really, really quickly. And then I went back after, and there was maybe a few minor changes, but I would say the song Soul Searching was 95% done, like in half an hour.
Damn.
Wow. Let's
Nice.
take a listen.
Press the button.
Can you forgive me for hanging you out? I have my freedom, but I still have my doubts. Nobody sees me with a cloud on my head, but I can feel it. It circles I bend. Soul searching now. Soul searching now. You are my brother. That doesn't change. Blood's thicker than water, but it flows just the same. How many times will I start up again? Somebody help me. I can't find my friends. Soul searching now. Soul searching now. Soul searching now. Soul searching now. If you read between the lines, I am caught up in the fight. I may be down, oh, but baby, I'm trying. I'm soul searching now. 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 Soul searching now.
just fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
nice horns.
Yeah.
Who are your horn players?
That's Terry Townsend and Steve Hilliam. They both were in Colin James' Little Big Band. And we met. I was playing in a club in Hamilton one night, and they were there, and I actually played that song.
Right.
And they're just such lovely guys. I remember just having this conversation with them, like, you want to play on this? You want to? And he said, yeah. And Terry had a studio in Vancouver, so they were flying home the next day. I sent him the tracks, and they put the horns on after. But it really adds a lot, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really catchy song, but the horns at the end just make it so big and nice.
Thanks.
And classic.
I'm really happy. Now, when we tour live, we're still playing this tune. It's always in my set because, as I said, it's one of those special kind of tunes for me. And so there's different, if you're touring with a trio, you don't have that effect. So the song morphs a little bit depending on the instrumentation.
You still have a guitar solo.
So they have to buy the album to get that version.
That's right. That's right.
But we were just saying that for someone who's known as a guitar player, they're really disciplined in where the guitar solos are in your songs.
They're not flashy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's especially if you're in a guitar player's world like we are. There's always a million great guitar players, and it's great, but every solo and all of the playing has to speak to the song. It doesn't really do you any good if you're just kind of meandering through verses and waiting for your turn to get a guitar solo. There's a time and a place for all that stuff, and I love playing the guitar. I work at it every day, but to me, it all still has to go with the song.
Right.
Yeah.
So Neil, what do you think?
I really love it. I really love this song. It's got a beautiful. It's highly structured for one thing,
right?
In that hanging you out, my doubts on my head are bad. Like it's very clean, and the way the melodies work in the verse is really nice.
Right.
And I love how understated the chorus is. Like it's not even a chorus per se. It's more like a verse refrain type of thing because it's one line, soul searching now, but it encapsulates the song perfectly. Yep. Right, and it's amazingly simple in those terms, but it sticks in your head. It's catchy,
yep.
and very memorable. And of course, arrangement wise, like it builds. You got that bridge at the end, or the bridge before the final choruses, which again, it's a pretty standard structure, but
yep.
it works nicely in terms of the build.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. Part of I think what resonates with people with this song in particular, and this is a very interesting thing because, as I said, this one is still in my set. I've been playing it forever, and more often than not, at the end of a show, somebody will come up, and if you're meeting people or signing a CD or whatever, and that's the song that they will refer to. And I think it's partially because of its simplicity and because the chorus it's a very repetitive song, but that works.
It's not too repetitive, though.
No, it's a great example of less is more.
I think so, too. We were talking about how sometimes a very simple idea, like don't try and do too much. When I wrote it, it was simple and that was it. And I started playing it for people and they really liked it. And I went, this feels like it's done to me. That's it. But I agree with you.
And it's nice because I think as songwriters, you have like a fairly dense image packed into your verse. So the idea is it can be like, well, have a chorus and then you need lots, a lot more melody. You need to make your chorus bigger. And the fact that you can actually only have, 3 words for the chorus and it still works really well, and in fact, it allows you to actually build up on it. Because if you were, like very often with a song, you'd have, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, and then repeat the chorus and get bigger. But very often at the end of the song, when they're repeating the chorus, they're just repeating one line anyways, so that it actually allows you to sort of do that building up of, with the horns and kind of making it kind of like a big, classic kind of, Motown song, like some of the older Motown stuff. So it's in B flat. It starts off. Thank you very much for actually including the chords. Which
if those are the chords.
If those are the chords, which we'll assume they are.
They are.
Have to play along at home.
So of course you can download these lyrics on the website at songtalk.ca. They'll be in the show notes. So it starts C minor, E flat B, which is like a
C minor sus4.
Yeah, so it's like a 2-5-1. 2-4-1?
2-4-1.
A 2-4-1.
But what's
it's interesting in the recording. There's no like intro guitar lick or anything. It literally starts with melody and chord right at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
When you do that live, do you strum a chord first and then so you get your key
just
center?
for a point of reference.
Yeah, for the reference point,
playing,
and then you're in, right?
The other interesting thing about this that I will say is it's in an open tuning.
What's your open tuning?
This is open for all the guitar players listening. This is Open G Capo 3.
Open G Capo 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is. So,
Did you write it in without the capo and then use the capo to sing it?
nope, I wrote it
really?
just like that. I use a lot of open tunings. We one of the little tips or tricks that I was going to say in terms of songwriting, I think it's really important, especially when you're talking about guitar or even piano, pattern-based instrumentation. What I do a lot is I will literally put the guitar into a completely different tuning, something that still sounds pleasing, so that literally your ear is the thing that is leading you. And that's a little thing that I've done over the years. That is a fun little trick to go, well, wait a minute, am I just going to a C because I feel like I need to go to a chord and it's a C chord? Do you know what I mean? This song in particular was Open G, Capo 3, and then that's where you get the sus sounds from.
So the open tuning isn't necessarily about the tonality, but it's about getting your brain into a different space.
That's how I use it, getting my brain into a different space where I'm not thinking about, oh, maybe I should use this kind of chord.
Another D chord.
Yeah, another D
1, 4,
chord.
5.
Yeah, which is there's nothing wrong with that,
Nothing wrong with that,
but for me that was always something that if I'm trying to write something, even when I'm writing, I'll put it in standard. I'll be playing something in standard, and I'll say, wait a minute, let me put it into an open tuning or change that approach. So maybe the tonal center is the same, like in this case, but my fingerings when I'm playing
is
the guitar.
that
will be
where the
different.
song started? Is with the chords?
Yeah.
And then you there was melody next, and then lyric last, or
Yeah, this one kind of came together all at the same time. So I was
yeah.
playing. I think I wrote it on dobro. Might have been dobro or acoustic, but one or the other. And when I did, I was just playing these nice, beautiful chords. The melody came to me. And then, like I said, it came really quickly after that.
I wanted to mention the an open tuning is where you take the guitar, instead of using the standard tuning, which is E, A, D, G, B, E, you would take some of the strings and detune them into a different notes. So it might be like D,
what's open G?
D, A, D, or a G would be G on the bass.
No, D6 on the guitar, open G tuning spelled out from 6 string to first strings, D, G, D, G, B, D.
Ah, there you go.
So
Five on the
that's weird. That's why Keith
Right.
Richards famously cut off the lowest string on his guitar, and he's only playing with 5 because that low string kept getting in the way. He wanted the root on the bottom.
you want the
Right. Yeah, because otherwise then you'd have an inversion all the time.
Exactly.
Which can be good. I mean, it's something actually that Joni Mitchell does a lot. She says that's a big part of her songwriting process is doing random tunings and then finding new voices. And it's a great way of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and it can lead to what was that, and then you sort of have to figure it out in terms of the intellect of it. Going, well, wait a minute, why is that sounding a certain way, and what is it?
And it really pushes your melodies in a certain way as well.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll hear some more songs from you, and we'll talk about how you write and communicate with your band.
Awesome.
Hey, for those of you just joining us, you are listening to Song Talk Radio, streaming on songtalk.ca. And tonight, legendary blues guitarist, singer, Juno-award winner, and Bomb, Steve Strongman is in the
Hamiltonian.
and we still like him. Don't forget, we love to hear from you even during the show. So why don't you send us an email or a question to us at feedback@songtalk.ca. Send us something on Twitter at Songtalk Radio or on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll share your thoughts and questions here on the show. Coming up on Song Talk Radio, December 3rd will be David McLaughlin. December 10th, local performer, songwriter, and all-around entertainer Jeff Farquharson will be bringing in some fantastic Christmas originals. Yes, it's that time of year, children. And if you happen to be in the Toronto area, why don't you join us for the next Song Talk meetup on Thursday, December 12th from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Transat Club. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link to the meetup. Back to you.
Thank you, Phil. It's Michael. Before we left, I was just curious. So you write, you collaborate, you write on your own. So when you come time to playing live, how do you work with your band? Is it by fiat? Just go, here's how the song sounds, play it like this, or how much input does the band have? How does it work? How do you communicate your ideas to the band?
Well, usually, I mean, it's always, we're very well rehearsed. Like there's a lot of rehearsal that goes into performing these songs live. So as I said with my latest record, the way that we approached it with the band is the producer, Dave King, who produced my last record, and we've been playing music together for over 20 years. He's a fantastic drummer and producer and one of my best friends in the world. We needed songs, and I had some ideas, and I sat in a room with him, and we just, as he says, he thinks, we got lucky. We just we got a few, and I'm really proud of the tunes that are on that record. And then from there, we brought in our bass player. Actually, to be completely honest, we went down to Nashville, and I recorded down in Nashville 6 tunes from the record with a band. So we brought those songs to the guys. We had sent them basically scratch versions of them and said, here's how it's going to go. And I was playing with absolutely incredibly world-class performing guys. Audley Freed from the Black Crowes and from Sheryl Crow's band. Pat Sansone from a band called Wilco. He's playing keys on there.
Nice.
James Haggerty, who's just a monster bass player. He's fantastic. He plays with Steve Cropper. So these guys are incredibly seasoned professionals, and Dave King, who's also playing drums on the sessions and producing too. So we just went down there, and I'll never forget what it was like sitting in a room with an acoustic guitar with these people that I'm literally a fan of, and I'm going, "Here's a song I wrote, guys. What do you think?" And then we sort of it was a very organic process.
That's what you
sat around going, "Well, what about this? Have you thought about doing this?" And then, Audley might have gone, "Oh, geez, you know what? I'm going to play this up here. I don't want to get in the way of the melody. I'm going to do this." And it was very much like that.
So how long did that process take?
I was down there for 3 days. So we did, actually it was 4 days. 4 days because one day was just for a couple of little overdubs.
Right.
But most of it was all done. A lot of it was live off the floor with very, very minimal overdubs, because that's the kind of record that we set out to make.
So how many songs did you do during these 3 days?
6.
6. Well, that's great.
That was super quick for us too. I've been a part of 7 records in. You kind of done a lot of stuff. I've done a live record, live DVD, and you understand all that. But then when you get in the studio world, you're like, "Oh, geez, does this sound right for it? Let's start all over again."
Yeah.
Let's spend a week on snare sounds.
Oh my God.
That's what they used to do back in the 80s. It was I actually was
When they
assistant.
had budgets.
I was an assistant, and I worked at one of the big Toronto recording studios. They'd spend a week on snare sounds.
Oh yeah,
was just crazy.
I believe it, and
Yeah.
and you can go down that rabbit hole very easily, and I totally understand that. Just the same way as writers, all of us can sit there and go, "Geez, I don't know is this word the right word?"
Yeah, it's
and then you
true.
wake up in the middle of the night and go, "Oh, I should have said this."
Speaking of words down rabbit holes, I'm actually, I want to go back to Soul Searching for a second.
Sure.
I'm just curious if you can tell us the story behind where the lyric came from.
Yeah, so that was a big period of change for me artistically. I was in, like I had said, a rock band, and I was in a hip-hop band as a hired gun guitar player, and we were playing huge things, and I just decided that, no, I want to be an artist. And this came to me so quickly. Sometimes, I would say for me, I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but sometimes a lyric will get you in such a way and you don't really know what it is that you're on about. And then you sort of flesh that idea out down the road a little bit more, and then it almost takes on a life of its own. This was like that. I had gone through a big change, like I said, and I was soul searching. I was thinking, is this really what I'm going to do? So I knew what the core of the song was going to be about. And then the other parts of it, the other verses came to me. I remember the one line about blood's thicker than water. That had come because I had sort of a tough conversation with one of my brothers, and it was like, we're kind of mad at each other right now, but blood is thicker than water, but it flows just the same.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, because it's really nicely crafted that way. In that it's open enough to other people's experience as well. Like you say, where it came from for you.
Yep.
But it's not that specific about that particular story, and it could be soul searching for anybody.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The listener can fill in a lot of their own details without
I think I totally agree with you
song
guys.
feeling vague. It feels specific, but it's not tying you to this
Yeah.
is a story of a guy who went here and did that.
Yeah, but it's certainly about a struggle, certainly an internal struggle, or even an external struggle. And it's interesting in your bridge, if you read between the lines, "I'm caught up in a fight."
Yeah.
Like you feel almost the need to explain it a little bit.
Right. I love that, the idea of certainly songs that get me a certain way. Some of the great ones are when you can interpret it in a different way. And that's part of the beauty of what songwriting is to me, right? So whether to me if it connects to somebody on an emotional level, isn't that what we're trying to do? So whether or not it means something, oh, I meant it like this, but you thought I meant that. Wow, that's kind of cool. I never thought of that.
Exactly.
But
so you say you started as a guitar player. Were you also writing poetry or anything like that early on?
No, I really wasn't. I came at the songwriting stuff because of my love for playing live, and then the more I started to write, quite honestly, the more success I was having with it, and other people that I really respected would say, "Wow, like this is a really good song," or "What about this?"
And you don't find lyric writing difficult then?
Oh God, I think every writer finds lyric writing difficult. They can, I certainly do. I find it horribly difficult sometimes. Yeah, to figure out a way to get exactly what it is across that you want to say. But you know, for me, the most success that I've had is when you can get most of your idea down as quickly as possible. So like inspiration hits, you've got an idea for a chorus. Don't let that process be hampered by, well, I don't really like that line. Just go to the next one. Yeah. The other one will come.
Mm-hmm. Don't think you're going to remember it. That was always my problem. Is like you come up, I'd be on my bike and go, oh, that's really good. That's how I'm going to handle it. And then, you know, by the time you get home, it's out of your brain, and you just remember that you had some idea for the solution.
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's a really good idea, it should stick.
I
don't know. I had a really good idea the other day, and I was like, okay, I'll jot it down later. But then I kind of half visited it on the way here today for our songwriting challenge. Actually.
As a guitar player, I want to talk about guitars because guitars are cool. These guys don't care, but we will.
Yep.
So,
I don't even play guitar.
I'm a guitar player. I care.
Yeah, you don't care. So what are your main axes that you're playing?
Well, I would play Gibson guitars exclusively no matter what, but I am a very proud Gibson endorsee. So I'm a full-on Gibson guy, and that's because
Do you have a signature model?
Not yet, but
angle for it.
Gibson people, if you're listening, see, I keep telling you. No, so I'm a diehard 335 fan. So I play Gibson ES335 completely, and I've fallen in love with my little Gibson Blues King, which is an acoustic, but I also have a J45 that gets a lot of play. And a nice Les Paul I've got too. So to me, you know, all guitars are meant to be played, and whatever it is. I mean, sometimes I feel really passionate with this old kind of Suzuki copy guitar that I have because it's a big full-size dreadnought, and it seems to have a lot of life in it, and I feel like I can write songs. There's a lot of songs in that one, you know?
Right.
So sometimes I'll write with that, but to me, it's whatever you're getting inspiration.
All your guitars get equal.
Right?
I do. I play dobro, and a lot of ideas are... You know, sometimes something just sounds really cool when you're playing it, and of course, from a guitar playing perspective, that gives you the inspiration. I could mention a lot of songs that I've written that were literally like, "Wow, this is really cool," and all of a sudden, a song comes from that idea.
It's true. Guitars want to do certain thing. I was just asking because a lot of blues players will use like a Tele or a Strat. You know, more that kind of single coily thing. But
yeah, that's part of the reason why I didn't do that actually from a guitar playing perspective. Is I always wanted to be a little bit different. I just don't want to be another Strat guy with a hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's
Strat and hat. It's one of my favorite Dr. Zeus books.
Strats and hats. There you go. You know, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love Strats. I love guys with hats.
But there's not like one or two guitars that your go-to guitars.
Oh yeah, there are.
There are.
Yeah,
but the other ones get some love.
Yeah, the other ones get some love too. But my number one guitar for the longest time, anybody listening, I would play every single gig on one guitar because that's all I had. And it was my Gibson 335 that I traded in other guitars and other amps for because it was a lot of money for me at the time. And they are a lot of money. They still are a lot of money. But but that's a special one for me.
How do you handle the open tunings live?
Depends on the shows that I'm doing, and it depends on the kind of touring that I'm doing. Sometimes you just got to do it. I mean, I'll give you an example of something that I saw somebody doing. David Wilcox, just fantastic. I've never seen somebody do it as well tuning live as David Wilcox. I'll go on record saying that. All these other guys, you know, we're all trying to get the guitar in tune, and we're putting it into an open tuning and shoegazing or something like that. Not Wilcox. He's got it worked right into his show. It's part of a thing. And the way that he does it, and he's so good at it too. Like he'll just boom go from open G to open D like that, back to standard, and or with a drop C or whatever, and it's part of the tune, you know.
Of course, he's been doing it for a long time, so it does help.
Long time. But I guess to answer your question, the way that I do it, I find it a lot easier. The only way you can really do it properly, depending on the kind of show that you're doing, is to have a dedicated guitar tech and a dedicated guitar that has that capo on, that fret in that tuning, that is climatized.
Right.
You know, because, and unfortunately, we've probably all been there. You pull out your guitar and you get on stage and you're in front of thousands of people or whatever it is you're in front of, and you start playing and it's out of tune, and it's like, nah.
Canadian winters are not your friends.
They're not good for guitars.
Okay, that's all the time we have for Guitar Talk Radio. So why don't we hear another song?
The drummer wants us to
They
move
don't
on.
care about this
All right,
stuff.
so tell us a bit about this is off your latest album, isn't it?
That kind of fight.
Yeah, I thought
Is Tired of Talking? Is that the title in parentheses?
new-
Yeah,
record?
Tired of Talking is the name of the new record.
That's the album name.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the album, and this song is that kind of fight, which I had written for a previous release, and you know, you have to make hard decisions sometimes as a writer, because I'm emotionally attached to this song. I don't know if you guys have that when you're writing a song. You know, some people might, it means something to you, and this one meant so much to me, and it was just one of those other special songs to come on to a songwriting show like this. If you're going to talk about songwriting, those were the two that I wanted to focus on. But this, again, you know, coming from a blues perspective, you know, I had some people, like my agent was like, I don't know about that song, man. It's a great song, but, you know, you're a blues guy. And I went, nah, it doesn't matter. I love the song, and it's going on my record. That's it.
Right.
Nice.
Well, let's take a listen.
How things get so damn complex when all I wanna do is write my song when the words are done. Funny how they point to you. So I don't think I'm gonna sleep tonight. Things would have to come together just right, and I don't think that I have that kind of fight. How did we end up like this when all I want from you is love and lust and heaps of trust that won't stop when I do? So I don't think I'm gonna sleep tonight. Things would have to come together just right, and I don't think that I have that kind of fight left in me. I'm not as strong as I seem. No, I don't think that I have that kind of fight. How'd you get so damn beautiful with all those little faults, when all I want is for you to love me, but maybe you don't. So I don't think I'm gonna sleep tonight. Things would have to come together just right, and I don't
Oh man,
All right.
another fantastic song.
That kind of fight.
Thank you.
So
That's a bit of a sad song.
a bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad song.
Does it hit you like a sad song?
Well, it kind of. I mean, I don't have that kind of
Very
fight. I'm not as strong
sad.
as I seem. Mm-hmm. All I want is to love me, but I guess you don't. Like,
What a great
man.
line.
Now that you put it like that, I guess it is kind of a sad
It's kind of a sad song. I mean, it's poignant. It's powerful.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like a unrequited love song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the end of love is what I took it. Like
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
been
I guess that's
going
what it-
through it, and now I'm not sure about the actual, but it's like you're lying in bed
Yeah.
and realizing like that there's a huge gulf between us, even though there's only inches.
Exactly.
Well,
So,
and also that I don't have that kind of fight. Like there's a resignation to it. Like I'm defeated. Like I've given up.
right.
You know.
So
What I love-
I didn't write that song about me, by the way. I'm happily married. My wife's obviously. We've been together for 25 years, but this is interesting because
Well,
Where'd it come from?
initially the lyrical idea, which is it's one of these things that happened. It was from a friend that said, I don't have that kind of fight. And he wasn't using it in this context. He was using it, in terms of I was touring and I was away from home and I have young children that were I was away from because I was on the road. And he's like, man, I can't believe how hard you're working to do what it is that you're doing. I just don't think I have that kind of fight anymore. And the way he said it in the context of it, that really stayed with me. And then when I started writing the song about a buddy who had gone through a horrible breakup, that's what came out. It was like, I don't think I have that kind of fight. Like it's kind of over. You know what I mean? So yeah, the lyrics are very poignant and they are about a breakup. But that's also a cool thing about writing songs. They're not always about you, the writer. You're writing about
No,
something.
they're
No,
about
certainly
things
not.
you've seen or heard. I mean, it's a very
Yeah.
mature look
Yeah.
at
Well,
love and the end of love.
But it's an interesting tool that you just described, where you take a phrase from somebody, from something somebody else said, and you reinterpret it. You don't exactly write a song about the way they were talking about it. But you take that phrase and you spin it a different way. Like I did that
Put
once.
it on someone else's circumstance.
Yeah.
Or someone else's thing. Like I was reading Blair Packham's blog. Actually, he was writing about something songwriting wise, and he was like, maybe you should try doing this, whatever it was. You might be surprised how that turns out. And I was like, you might be surprised. That's an interesting thing. But I took
great,
it and
yeah.
I wrote a song that was not about that at all. It was
Right.
completely about my own
Right.
personal experience and something
that
else.
phrase
Right?
just
But that phrase
triggered
just sort of
something.
triggered
Yeah.
something, and you just
Yeah.
Well,
take it in a
that's
different direction.
writing from titles, which is a big Nashville thing, where people
Yeah.
will just come up with and they'll have a book full of titles and they'll go through and they'll find a title that kind of grabs them and
Right.
and write a song from that.
Well, so yeah, an interesting thing I was going to touch on here because I had the unique experience of going into a writing session in Nashville with somebody and, a lovely, successful person, and their perspective on writing songs was so different than my perspective on writing songs. So, but you're put into this situation, and right away it was like, okay, we're in Nashville. 74% of the market is male, so this song has to come from a male perspective. And we should talk about trucks. And if we could mention, I'm not kidding, this happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure that I'm the right guy for this. I'm writing songs like that kind of fight, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Writing with something in mind is a very, very cool thing to do. Like, let's write about
It's a good challenge.
whatever it is, But sometimes I think that can lead to other things, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, like writing with a title in mind. Like I'm going to write about this.
yeah.
A self-driving truck left without me.
Yeah, right. So and there's great tunes, great hits. I understand, right? But it's all a matter of that's what's beautiful about songwriting. Again, is that there's no right or wrong. There's sometimes no rhyme or reason to it, and you come at it from the way
when
you do.
it lands. When
So
you
there
play
was
for
some-
someone and they respond.
Yes.
So there's some great things about the song. It's very clear what the title is, and I think that's really important. No matter where your title is in your song, it can be it has to be clear because that's what people are going to call it, regardless what you call it.
Right.
If someone just hears it on the radio, they're going to say, "Oh, it's that song, that kind of fight." Sometimes people will say, "Well, this is called like December Blues or something." You go, "No one's going to call it that,"
I know what you mean. That was always a
do
pet
you have
peeve
any,
of
do you have
mine
any
too.
songs that
With
have
Led
something
Zeppelin,
blues?
they never had the song titles in the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, not often.
So, anyways, it's really clear about you having the title there.
Yeah.
And you had the end of your verse had a certain chord, but then you did a nice change on the second title line.
Yeah, that kind of fight the
with
second
that sort
time
of
around
change
was
where you
really
kind
nice.
of extended it, which I thought was so nice. It was just a nice little sort of detail, that kind of little polish of.
It almost sounded like it was going into a bridge, but then it
But
was
it
just,
almost didn't?
But then it
Yeah,
was like
it
an
was
extended
really
chorus.
nice.
Kind of really cool.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, when it goes into have that kind of fight
Yeah,
left in me.
What is that chord? Do you remember?
That goes to 6 minor.
6 minor. That's really sweet. And what's also nice is that you sort of solo. Well, actually, don't actually solo at the end, but you actually go over that change all the way through with as the outro, which is really nice. I thought.
Yep. Thank you very much. I mean, it's nice to go over detail like that too, which is very cool, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
people don't even know what it is, but when you're coming at it from a songwriting perspective, these are all decisions that were kind of made. Like, I had to go, well, wait a minute, don't. And even this one in particular, I believe it was my producer, Dave King, that had some influence over it going, you don't need to go back to that chord again or whatever it is, And,
Nice.
and sometimes, again, less is more. We all get in our own heads. We're all
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that.
Well, it's about setting up a pattern, breaking it, and then maybe not breaking it again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you like that because it does impart a little bit of. Like it kind of opens up the chord progression at that point. Like it kind of sounds brighter
Right.
at that point, which maybe is a good thing in a sad song.
Well, and it's one of those details, and I'm always talking about the difference between there's different levels of songwriting. There's people who are doing it as a hobby and it's fun, and they write a song and they go, that's okay. And then there's people who are wanting to do it professionally, and I think it's noting these little sort of details, like going to the minor 6 at the end of that to kind of give it that little polish. It's those little details that change a song from something that someone does from a homemade creation to a artisan creation. That's the difference between a professional and it's that sort of attention to detail.
Getting better at your craft, right?
Yes.
It's getting to your trap, but it's also our responsibility as artists to pay attention to those details because I mean, like you said, like most people may not know what precisely is going on there.
Right.
Songwriters might, and someone who really takes a careful listen, but it imparts the emotion in a different way, but only. But the nice thing about it is even from a listener's point of view, they get more rewarded and more have a richer experience the more they listen to it.
Absolutely. And this song is, in the end, the song is the king, and that's going to go off and have a life of its own. So you better make sure that it's exactly the way you had intended. And with some artists perhaps that aren't necessarily on the professional level, some people that have sat around and they'll play me songs, that exact thing that we're all talking about is a detail that is worth pointing out because sometimes they'll spend an extra time on a bar and I'll go back and talk to them about the song and go, so you put an extra bar there, why'd you do that? And they're like, oh, did I? I didn't even really think of that. I was just waiting to get to the next part. And I'm like, hang on a second here. These are all like, at least what I try and do is every detail is gone over in the song. There's no sort of, I don't know why I did this. You have to do that.
Yeah, there's no spare bar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of spare bars and too much time or not enough time, we're out of time. We have 10 seconds.
So fast.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the disappearing guitar solo and how it's putting our whole society into hell.
I'll just have to come back.
You'll have to come back. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
being
guys.
here.
Thanks for having
been
me.
great.
It was great stuff.
But that is all the time we have tonight on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to our guest, Steve Strongman. Thank you.
Woo,
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic
Thank you very
music.
much.
Fantastic stuff, man. You got to come back.
So those of you out there listening, please send us your impressions on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Song Talk Radio or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, especially for this, and for live performance videos and full episodes, and stop by our site at songtalk.ca. Maybe when you come back, see if you can bring your guitar and play live here.
Sounds like a
That'll be
deal.
good. Subscribe today to Song Talk Radio Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher.com, Spotify, or Podcast Addict, or probably some other places. And do not forget to sign up for our free newsletter at songtalk.ca. And on songtalk.ca, you can find links to all our products, books, and web services, anything we mention on the show, you can find there on the resources page. If you are in Toronto, please join us for our next Song Talk meetup, which is our live songwriting get-together on Thursday, December 12th from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Transect Club, Brunswick and Bloor. It's free to join up on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. So please stop by songtalk.ca for the link to the meetup and find out there. So thank you, Don, for doing all the wonderful tech on the
Don.
Thank you,
board.
Don.
Thank you, Don.
And most of all, we'd like to thank you, our devoted listener.
Thank you.
So if you would like, you can follow Neil at...
neilmodi.com.
That's easy enough. Phil, would you like to be followed somewhere?
Yes, at the Phil Murray on Twitter.
If you're curious, my Instagram is at ProudFit420. And, of course, our guest, Steve Strongman, how would people find you on this internet thing?
SteveStrongman.com, and come on down tomorrow night, Hughes Room Live.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Playing at the Hughes Room. Great venue to see Steve. All right, so stop by the website at songtalk.ca to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. And keep on writing. Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Good night.